SCP-3199 is not a subject you want to come in contact with. In addition to being extremely hostile toward human life, SCP-3199 has proven to be very difficult to eradicate. Its reproductive capabilities allow it to continue existing, regardless of how many subjects are killed. So what if SCP-3199 was real? That's the question we are asking right now on Life's Biggest Questions. Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that imagines the impossible. I'm Charlotte Dobre, and if this is your first time here, hello, how are you? You should probably click that subscribe for more daily head scratchers and turn on those notifications so you never miss one of our videos. SCP-3199 is described as a sentient humanoid species of an unknown biological origin, but tissue samples taken have shown traces of domestic chicken and chimpanzee DNA. Weird. SCP-3199 is hairless and stained with a thin layer of globular protein called albumin. It stands at 2.9 meters tall. Adults weigh 780 kilograms and hatchlings weigh 360 kilograms. The characteristic most notable about SCP-3199 is its neck, which appears to be dislocated. It is able to twist its neck almost 360 degrees, 340 degrees to be exact. First discovered in Ireland following reports of an unidentified bald creature, quote, crying like a banshee from within a dense woodland area. When personnel went to contain it, two were lost in action. Their internal organs and jaws were almost completely dissolved. Once contained and while being transported, SCP-3199 produced two offspring, who further killed 6 more personnel. By all accounts, SCP-3199 is highly dangerous. SCP-3199 used to be classified as Euclid, but has been reclassified as Keter on the 10th of June 2017 after a containment breach. The water containment method once used has been replaced with a resin solution. Keter SCPs display vigorous hostility toward humans, civilizations, and/or space-time, and are capable of causing significant destruction in the event of a containment breach. Keter SCPs must be contained, catalogued, and destroyed if possible. SCP-3199 specimens are hunters that seek out prey within a radius of 0.6 kilometers of their hatchlings. They can travel at up to 25 kilometers an hour. If it comes across a human or animal, SCP-3199 will perform some sort of attack. Can't explain it for you because it was redacted from documents, but the attack somehow liquefies the prey's internal organs and bone structure. The corpse is then taken to its hatchlings for sustenance. SCP-3199's hatchlings start as eggs, incubating in the subject's stomach, then esophagus, then out through the mouth, accompanied by a red, viscous substance that is highly corrosive. When SCP-319 is giving birth, it shows signs of extreme distress. Some personnel have witnessed SCP-3199 creating a sound very similar to a scream while giving birth. Its eggs are very resilient and have not shown visible signs of damage when exposed to extreme blunt force trauma, extreme pressure, high precision blades, and long-term acid exposure. It would appear that SCP-3199's eggs are indestructible. The only method of extermination not tested yet is point-blank explosives, but up until this point, exposure to extreme heat has resulted in eggs hatching sooner than expected. So why does SCP-3199 produce so many eggs? The theory is that in order to avoid extinction, SCP-3199 produces eggs to fill available space. The problem with SCP-3199 is it's able to produce many eggs, quite possibly an infinite amount. Killing SCP-3199 specimens is not difficult, but getting rid of them completely is proving to be quite difficult. All instances of SCP-3199, regardless of how old they are, carry one egg in their stomach at all times. This ensures survival of their species. So now that you know a little about SCP-3199, let's talk about what would happen if it were real. As long as it continues to be contained, it poses no threat to human life or human civilization. But seeing as the specimen has already breached containment, another breach might be possible. SCP-3199 is contained at Site-114, which is filled entirely with distilled water and treated with Class A sedatives in order to contain SCP-3199. So, does it have any weaknesses? Thankfully, the SCP Foundation's containment methods are very effective in countering SCP-3199's reproductive properties. While contained in liquid, regardless of thickness or clarity, SCP-3199 appears to enter an inert state. There are currently 2 theories that exist for this. SCP-3199 could be very afraid of drowning, and while immersed in liquid, its needs for survival are focused entirely on not drowning. And theory number 2, SCP-3199 could consider the liquid it's surrounded by to be a full space, and does not produce any young when submerged. The second theory is far more plausible. All is well unless for some reason, perhaps by human error, SCP-3199 subjects are no longer submerged. If it somehow manages to breach containment, the human race would be at serious risk. Not only does SCP-3199 absolutely detest humans, their species is extremely difficult to get rid of, their eggs in particular. If SCP-3199 was real, every test imaginable would be conducted to attempt to destroy its eggs. And until a solution is found, humans would go under complete lockdown. Considering the aggressive reproductive habits of this SCP, specimens would spread quickly. Humans who are not familiar with it would attempt to destroy eggs, using methods proven to be detrimental, spawning more and more creations of SCP-3199. There would be many deaths before we get a handle on the dire situation, but many members of the public would start to come across solutions for the spread of SCP-3199. For example, seeing as extreme heat makes the eggs hatch quicker, perhaps methods such as extreme cold to the point of freezing would prevent the hatching of SCP-3199's eggs. In order to contain adult specimens, traps could be set, where they are drawn into enclosed spaces with human bait, then those spaces are filled with distilled water and sedatives. This would have to be done until all SCP-3199 specimens are contained. Well, there you have it, but now I open up the questions to you, dear subscribers. What do you think would happen if SCP-3199 was real? Let me know down there in those comments, and while you ponder that, I'm going to answer some comments and questions from my last SCP video on this channel. What if SCP-1471 was real? Dova Kingdom said, wow, I suggested this a while ago. I feel loved because someone made this, though I'm sure no one even noticed me. I noticed you, Nova Kingdom. Scotchy Flame said, this one is cute, it looks cool. Cute? That's not how I would describe it, but I guess beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Mr. Stick said she killed Jack Finch and took over the SCP category. Mr. Stick, there are plenty of SCPs to go around. That is all for this video, and thanks for watching Life's Biggest Questions. If you want to go on an SCP binge, check out the playlist that's currently flashing on your screen. And if you enjoyed your time here, please leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and I'll see you in a future episode of Life's Biggest Questions.